So I'm back at the Pyramid Temple. I apologize, I'm a little scruffy. I put doing the right thing over looking good. Now we are much past the morning, and the light still makes me look good, so I could be a little off about that. But I do believe the first light and different lights, and with different natural substances, Egyptians look good, while with artificial substances, the snake tried to usurp us in our natural beauty. And through eugenics is part of why black women aren't as good looking as they used to be. And there's still a lot of good looking ones, but if you let them finish us off, it'll be the ugly, small, whiny little black people. It says the great glorious giants that united Egypt with their agility and dexterity. On page 182 of Professor Obi's book, it makes it clear that whites usurped the power by ripping us off with the other Semites and Japhethians because of our heart. And Jesus said, give them your heart. Send your heart to them. Give them your love. Unite the people. And so even in San Francisco, I happen to look good, and I do believe big payback is San Fernando. Rest in peace is part of why I wear this. There's things like that you don't know, and I want to tell my wife, and I can't. And so there's people I want to tell my inner circle things, and I can't. And so, let me just put this here for now. Okay? And you know what that symbolizes? I'm putting the staff. It doesn't fit there perfectly. I might adjust it there. I'm going to take it out. You see what I'm saying? The staff, your heart. Give them your heart. The staff, the people who work with you. Don't rip them off. Don't treat them unfairly. Don't control their reproduction. I accuse the white man, with all due respect, not all white people, I'm part white, I'll be accusing myself if I did, of controlling reproduction of every race, using corporations, propaganda, especially the pharmaceutical sector. Listen very carefully. Especially mental health in psychiatry and psychology. One way to look at it is during the 700s, Muhammad and the Japhethians and the Semites, who were more Asiatic, started fighting over who's in control after the Romans had successfully ripped off the Egyptians for the bread, the knowledge, the love, controlling making love, and people's perspective of romance. So mental health job, their main job is to control your perspective, so that eugenicists can control reproduction by getting the most undesirables to kill their kid. What is an unwanted baby? He's an undesirable baby. He's an unwanted, right? So we are all being aborted to different degrees, and once they can identify us using their Western Roman, Greco-Roman, Viking kind of leave them out in the cold scale, then they get rid of us. And of the undesirables, political dissidents were the main ones Hitler was looking for, because the Jews had boycotted the Germans. Okay, so there's Jews who are mad at political dissidents and Germans, and when the smoke cleared, the people who made the Havre Agreement won out over the Nazis. So there's some white Nazis who feel cheated by the Jews who sold them out with the Masons and the like, and there's some whites who sided with them. So there's an internal struggle, to make a long story short, with cults and gangs and political groups and corporations and religions, especially in church, and anything that has to do with perspectives, philosophy, politics, and people's cultural values and how they are expressed through genes and other ways. And at the end of the day, the black man is denied his rightful place because you don't want to admit the relevance of Macau, I believe his name was, laying soda, which is a variation, or Sado, okay, soda, interchangeable vowels. He's Japanese, right? Obeisance, right? We proved to the Japhethians in that combat that our martial arts are superior. And that was just a variation of African agility, which you see in the leopards, the Zulus, and the Egyptians, and the Osirian stick-fighting priests. So our philosophy is the reason why we conquered the Mediterranean and God chose us is that he gave us superior mind, body, soul. And we have to play super speed chess between ourselves to determine of the master race who should be in charge. So Bethlehem, Egypt, the warehouse, the liquor store and the warehouse, Egypt, Bethlehem. The rainbow, X marks the spot, the cross of Osiris and the cross of Jesus together. Afro-Asiatic, the Jews went to school in Egypt. Not all Egyptians were good. Some were influenced by Japhethian serpent, Viking flag, royal Flamy flag philosophies. Hitler is said to have told his troops that they want to rush the gates of heaven. They understand being lightning fast, the Nordics, so there's some whites that roll with them. The Irish sided with the blacks as the nine by the 9th century or the 900s, depending on your perspective and whether you want to pretend or live in reality. Either way, you come to the same conclusion. All paths lead to God through Egypt. The X marks the spot of the Garden of Eden, where the inundation of Nile from God gave us Osiris' love. So the Garden of Eden is in Egypt, and it is where humanity really started reproducing. And Noah and everything marks the flood of new philosophies and things that were wiped out by God's flood. He said, you want to flood us with your bullshit, the bull that covers the true light on behalf of the snake. Okay, and I promise you there are whites who will swear up and down that I'm wrong. There are whites who will say that if I say it this way, I will push people away from the church and they have to stop me. There are whites who will say I'm not as good as I say that I am. And Ra came in the mail today along with his Ankh. And so I'm going to unveil him, so to speak, against you Satanists. Ra represents, look at his body type, transferable skills, the six-pack. His arms aren't that big, okay, his legs. He's big enough to hold a bigger weapon. That is the weapon he's using. Okay, this is a kind of Egyptian build that's a little bit taller than the Mediterranean build. And over time, you had different variations. And at the end of the day, the reason why the Igbos who are shaped like me won out, and the Zulus and everything, is because the best variation of the ancient version of the martial artist using agility and dexterity on page 182, Professor Obi again, the first son, Obi, Obi-Wan, Igbo, IGBO, the G is silent, okay? Just like in wrong, the R is, the W, who, what, where, when, why, white, concealed it, who gets the Amun, the truth, the whites or the black cults. And in Egypt, it was the Nubians and Necanites and Wasetians, who were from the temple of Horus, who was the patron. He was the patron saint? No, he was the patron deity, which was the equivalent of saint. So the Italian wolf people, Romulus was raised and trained by wolves, who also like to use substances to, feed on their animals. For example, if you know that the sheep is looking for water, right? You might hang out by the water if you're a wolf. So they know, there's different people at the water pools. And of course, in the Bible, you see the water hole being used as a way to lure a man of God into having a baby that he might not have otherwise had. And it ends up playing out in our favor. No matter what they do, we have the upper hand. If you do not concede my point, you do not go to heaven. It is not even my point, it is God's point. Ra simply represents God through the martial arts school system. That's why every statue I have is carrying a staff, which is a variation of a spear and a weapon. And you see that they favor the hawk because we united Egypt. So Anubis uses the scale of the hawk. The weapons that are used, light contact, light scale. Ra uses the scale of the hawk. Excuse me one moment. You see this weapon? I'm about to show you a variation of it. You understand what I mean by variations of the ancient Egyptians and variations of weapons and the same transferable principles? Okay. Give me one moment. Excuse me. Bear with me, please. This is a variation of this weapon, and I will put a description of it in the comments. I can't remember it off the top of my head. When you turn upside down, you see how it resembles that curve? I have to use similar principles to use this machete variation of this weapon is one way to look at it. And of course, we know Africans and South Americans and Capoeistas and people like me love machetes, right? Even if they don't know how to use them because the white man controls propaganda and confuses them about their culture unless they're from a village that still preserves it, like my village back home, which is being contaminated. Nigeria is the most contaminated place because they know them, right? Again, Horus uses transferable skills and similar stances to use similar weapons. You see? See this? Similar stances, same weapons. He's carrying the Ankh. Okay? Because it is through the life in the heart. This doesn't symbolize me carrying the power. This symbolizes that I've aligned myself to those who see it my way, the Afro-Asiatic dialect of Hebrew, and the descendants of Solomon and Queen of Sheba, the light-skinned peoples and the dark-skinned Nubians, the light-skinned Jews and the darker-skinned Jews, and those who went to side with the Romans and the bankers, and those who went to Africa, and those whites who realized they were wrong, and are ready to admit that the Rothschilds are the bad guys, and that people like me are the good guys, and those who aren't willing to admit that, who have sold their soul, and those caught in between who are victims of their own greed. So again, these are not idols. These are symbols that represent martial arts, and this is what you would expect from a warrior. The difference between an idol is, I'll tell you right now, Horus is not my god. Heru, Haru, Ra, and Re. Ra, Haru, the A. Not gender feminist way. Ra, Ra, not Ray. Amen, Ra. Okay? Amen with the E versus with the U. You are the A. A, black man. Ra, Haru, the hair with an A, not her, not not gender feminist. That's the 9. So you have Horus, which is the 6. Heru, which is her and you in one, kind of black and white, kind of yin yang, Japhethian Roman philosophy. So you have the Viking, the Horus, we want to just whore you all. There's the, oh, meet, come be friends with us. And, Heru, right? And they want to meet between them and Europe somewhere, right? And then there's the Haru, who wants to give you the truth, who will be crucified because no one wants to admit that I'm the top. I told them, if you can prove you're worth $100,000, I will pay you $100,000 in the next 7 years, okay? And I will take down my videos, take the drugs, everything you want. If you can prove it. If you can't, I'll $10,000, take down the videos, drugs, all that stuff. Okay, I'll take your drugs, stop drinking, whatever you want me to do. I'll date fat women, but you can't do it. No one has ever put it on the line like I have. And no one has ever proven what I have. I'm way faster than Bruce Lee. He covers his mini-me length in the time I covered twice the distance. They have to do 30 hits from their trapping Bruce Lee kind of range to do with karate gloves on in 1.2 seconds to match the same speed I did for my boxing range. My Deontay Wilder kind of 6'5" man boxing, African long arms boxing range, okay? They can't do it. That's why we're the best at basketball. Agility. The same reason we're the best at basketball is the same reason we're the best at martial arts. And every once in a while, they come together with scientists and find some little pesky guy to score more points, and they pay off black guys to help them look good and say we snaked them, and ha, 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 that's our temple. But we're still superior with all due respect. And I am the Michael Jordan of martial arts, the greatest martial artist in America, that is, the greatest martial artist in the United States of American history, and then maybe North and South America. Because, I asked a kickboxing female, so help me God, I think it was yesterday, when I went to Santa Cruz. I just got back again. I'm talking fast because time is running out for my video and in other ways. And I asked her, have you ever even heard of anyone faster? No response. Because they do not want to give me my credit. Or she's super busy. But what do you think it is? They're going to do a lot of digging. They'll never find that. It is damn near close to impossible without God to achieve that kind of speed. And you will see people fake and use all kinds of drugs and computer chips to do it in the future. Therefore, because of the white man's treachery, thousands and thousands of years of treachery and technology, I declare myself the top martial artist in American history and the top martial artist there ever will be. 777. Over 100 victories, over 20 years of martial arts training. In the light contact, while they're making disgraceful arguments about how that's for bitches. They're basically saying black people's martial arts is for bitches. And wrestling like a Greco-Roman, making a bloodbath, is for real men. Real white, conservative men. And the liberals who like to see guys in tights who meet them halfway somewhere in Europe. Kind of like England or something. Somewhere in between the Vikings, depending on which direction you're sailing, and the Romans. Are there any questions like, how did the Vikings get their peace in? Look at the Viking history. They bred with the royal families. They went to Russia and all that stuff. Thank you.